I still remember the smell of his Christmas tree. It was fake, small, and decorated with gold ribbons that shimmered every time my hand trembled. But I remember it because it was the last thing I saw before my son, Michael, looked me in the eyes and said the words that tore something inside me forever. Mom, you're not invited. Christmas is for family. Family. He said it while standing in the doorway of his perfect new house, snow falling behind him like some cruel decoration. His wife, Emily, hovered in the background, arms folded, eyes cold. And my son, my only child, stood there telling me I didn't belong. But the part that shattered me wasn't his rejection. It was what I held in my hand, the signed documents that could destroy everything he had worked for. And he had no idea. Michael, I whispered, my breath shaking in the winter air. Don't do this. Don't push me away today. He stepped back, closed the door. And that was the moment I decided to pull the one move that would crush his perfect life and make him understand exactly what he had thrown away. I raised my hand to knock again, when the scream came from inside the house. A woman's scream. High, sharp, terrified. Then everything went silent. And as I reached for the doorknob, my heart pounding in my ears, I realized this Christmas was about to spiral into something none of us could escape. If you're still watching, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this. Now, let me take you back to where everything began. My name is Caroline West. And before that awful Christmas, before betrayal, before heartbreak, before revenge, I was just a young woman who loved her family more than anything. And once, many years ago, I had a husband whose smile lit up every room. The worst Christmas of my life wasn't the one where my son rejected me. It was the one where my husband died. He passed on Christmas Eve at exactly 11 a.m. The hospital room was freezing, as if the air itself was holding its breath. The walls smelled like disinfectant, sharp, bitter, unforgettable. Machines hummed and clicked, each beep punching fear deeper into my chest. I sat at the edge of the hospital bed, holding Michael, who was just 4, one hand gripping his tiny back, the other holding my husband's fading one. His skin was cold, too cold. The doctor's face said everything before he spoke, a soft shake of the head, a helpless lowering of the eyes. I watched the life drain from my husband's face like a candle dying in slow motion. And then, miraculously, his eyes fluttered open one last time. Caroline, his voice was barely a breath. Promise me, you'll raise him well. I will, I cried. I swear. Promise you'll never let him feel alone. His fingers slipped from mine. And I broke. Michael didn't understand. He just pressed his cheek against my chest and whispered, Mommy? Daddy's sleeping. I held him tighter, trying to keep the both of us from falling apart. From that day forward, everything became about Michael. We had no money, no savings, barely any food. But I made it work. I worked long hours at a grocery store, sometimes 2 shifts back to back. I sold the gold earrings my mother gave me when I got married. I skipped meals so Michael could eat. I walked to work when the bus fare was too much. I slept on the couch, so he could have the only bed in our tiny apartment. And every Christmas, while the world glowed and celebrated, I cried quietly in the kitchen, missing my husband, praying for strength, trying to smile for my little boy. Michael was my light. He would hold my face in his small hands and say, Mom, when I grow up, I'll take care of you forever. And I believed him. I believed every sweet, innocent word. I watched him grow into a smart boy, then a brilliant teenager, then a hardworking college student. I cheered for him at every soccer game, saved coins to buy him birthday presents, stayed up at night sewing patches on his clothes to make them look new. I lived for that child. Every breath I took was for him. But life has a cruel sense of humor. Because the boy who once kissed my forehead and swore he would never let me feel alone would one day become the man who shut the door in my face on Christmas. And as I stood outside his house on that snowy night, holding documents that could turn his perfect life upside down, I had no idea that the scream from inside was about to drag us all into a nightmare far darker than rejection. And much, much deadlier. The scream inside Michael's house was still echoing in my ears as I stood frozen on his snowy doorstep. But before I tell you what I found when that door finally opened, I need you to understand who Michael was. Because boys like him don't just wake up one morning and decide to break their mother. They grow into it. Michael was born with a glow around him. People used to say he had star eyes. Big blue eyes, a perfect smile, and a laugh that made strangers turn around in supermarkets just to see him again. Even as a toddler, he pulled attention the way flowers pull sunlight. By the time he reached elementary school, teachers adored him. Caroline, he's exceptional, they'd tell me at every meeting.
Sharp. Charming.
A natural leader. Neighbors waved at him like he was the mayor of the block. Women at the bus stop offered him candy. Old men ruffled his hair and said, "This one's going far." And the girls, Lord, the girls. At age 12, he came home with his backpack stuffed with little pink notes. "You're cute. Sit next to me tomorrow. Do you like ice cream?" "I do." I teased him about it. He blushed and hid them behind his back, giggling. Back then, he still hugged me. Back then, he still curled up beside me on the couch during thunderstorms. Back then, he still said, "Mom, you're my favorite person." But somewhere between 12 and 16, the world changed him. Or maybe it revealed him. His smile grew sharper. His confidence turned into something heavier. He walked like he owned every hallway he stepped into. He knew he was brilliant. He knew he was gifted. And slowly, he started acting like the universe owed him space, owed him everything. At school, he was the golden boy. At home, he was becoming a stranger. I tried to keep up with him. God knows I tried. I spent the last of my savings to keep him in the best private schools I could find. Institutions meant for children raised in mansions, not in tiny apartments like ours. The tuition was more than I made in a month. So I worked 3 jobs. At night, I washed dishes in a restaurant filled with laughter I was too tired to join. Before sunrise, I scrubbed office floors while wealthy executives stepped around me like I was invisible. During the day, I sewed clothes for neighbors, my fingers numb and raw from the needle. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself it was for Michael. I told myself he'd see it,
Appreciate it. Honor it.
but as he grew older, he grew colder. He stopped hugging me. He stopped talking to me unless he needed something. Money, permissions, signatures. He rolled his eyes when I corrected him. He hid his phone, hid his plans, hid his new expensive shoes that I knew he couldn't afford. "Where did you get those, Michael? Why are you always in my business?" "I'm your mother, that's why." "Yeah, well, act like it." That one stabbed deep. Still, I held on to hope. Every mother does. When graduation day came and they called him most outstanding student, I cried so loudly people turned to look at me. Not because I was embarrassed, but because I was proud. Deep, bone-deep proud. Michael wore that moment like a crown. Afterward, he hugged me. Not tightly, not with the warmth he once had, but he hugged me. And that alone made every night shift, every unpaid bill, every skipped meal worth it. "This is just the beginning, Mom," he told me. And I believed him. I believed it again when he got accepted into a top university. I believed it when he moved to another state for his career. I believed it when he called me less and less but posted smiling photos with friends, co-workers, and girls I'd never met. Michael became a rising star in his industry, one of those clean-cut American success stories people share online with a caption, "Hard work pays off." He became a public figure, a motivational speaker, a darling of social media. Fans adored him. Business partners praised his discipline. Girls filled his comment section with hearts and starry-eyed emojis. But with every new praise he received, he pushed me further into the shadows. He changed his number without telling me. He visited the city without stopping by home. He told people his mother lives abroad to avoid explaining his background. I didn't know it had gotten that bad. Not until the week before Christmas. He called me, his voice stiff, formal. "Mom, Christmas plans are tight this year. Maybe next time." That hurt. But I still sent him a sweater. Still bought a small gift for his wife. Still wrapped everything with love I couldn't hide even if I tried. And then, Christmas Eve arrived. The one day of the year his father's memory still lived in the walls of our home. I went to Michael's house with a plate of cookies and the silent prayer that maybe, he remembered the promise he made as a child. Mom, when I grow up, I'll take care of you forever. Instead, he looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You're not invited. Christmas is for family." My heart didn't just crack. It disintegrated. But while I stood there on his porch, holding paperwork that could shatter everything he had built, the scream came from inside. A woman's scream. Emily's. And the second I heard it, I knew, whatever was happening inside that house, whatever secret Michael had been hiding all these years, whatever darkness lived behind his perfect smile, it was finally surfacing. And no one was ready. Emily's scream still rang in my ears as I stood outside Michael's front door, snow melting on my coat. But before I could reach the doorknob, before I could rush inside and see what horror was unfolding, I need to take you back 3 weeks. Because the road to that scream, to that moment, to Michael's downfall, didn't begin on Christmas Eve. It began long before. 3 weeks before Christmas, I was expecting the same routine Michael and I had kept for years. He would repaint my old house, always in soft colors, always calling afterward to ask, "Mom, do you like it?" He would send Christmas clothes, a new sweater, a warm shawl, sometimes shoes I didn't need but wore anyway because he bought them. He would visit and eat my cooking, fried chicken, baked macaroni, and that honey-sweet cake he loved as a boy. Every December felt like a small miracle, a moment where the world stopped hurting. A time when I could convince myself my son still remembered his roots, still remembered me. So that year I waited, and waited, and waited. But nothing came. No paint, no clothes, no visit, just silence. I dialed his number. "The number you dialed is not reachable," the robotic voice said. I tried again. Same message. Again. Same message. At first, I thought maybe he was traveling. Then maybe his phone was broken. Then maybe he was busy with work. I prayed he was safe. I prayed nothing had happened to him. I prayed that whatever distance had grown between us still had a bridge left to cross. But the truth was simpler. He had changed his number.
And he chose not to tell me.
Christmas morning arrived like a dream I wasn't ready to wake from. I put on one of my best dresses, a soft blue gown with lace on the sleeves. I styled my hair. I added a little perfume, the one I kept for special days. I baked the cake Michael loved, vanilla pound cake with caramel drizzle. My driver helped me into my wheelchair. My legs had grown weak over the years from overwork and untreated pain, another sacrifice I never mentioned to my son. "Let's go see Michael," I told the driver, smiling through nerves. "He'll be so happy." But deep inside, a small voice whispered, "What if he isn't?" I silenced it. Motherhood teaches you how. The moment we reached his gated estate, my breath caught. It looked like a mansion pulled from a Christmas movie. Tall pillars wrapped in lights. Golden decorations hanging from the balconies. A 12-foot tree glowing through the window. Guests in expensive suits and glittering dresses filled the driveway, laughing like they all belonged there. Like the place was a celebrity gala. I felt hope flutter in my chest. My son, my boy did all this. He's living the life I prayed for. The security guard checked the list, frowned, then called someone. After a tense minute, the gates opened. My driver pushed my wheelchair inside. My heart raced with excitement. I looked for Michael, and when he finally turned, when our eyes met across the room, everything inside me froze. His face didn't light up. He didn't smile. He didn't rush toward me. His expression shifted into something sharp. Irritation. Annoyance. And, to my horror, disgust. He walked toward me slowly, like every step was a burden. "Mom," he hissed through clenched teeth. "What are you doing here?" My lips trembled. I came to spend Christmas with you. Like always." He glanced around nervously, as if ashamed to be seen talking to me. Several elegantly dressed guests stared, judging, whispering, wondering why a woman in an old wheelchair and simple dress was rolling through a mansion party. "This party is for VIPs," Michael muttered. Important people. You shouldn't be here. I swallowed hard. But I'm your mother. He leaned closer.
Exactly.
You're embarrassing me. I felt something inside me shift, crack, collapse. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a $10 bill, and pressed it into my palm. Take this and go home. He placed the money in my hand like he was tipping a beggar on the street. My fingers trembled around the bill. My voice broke. Michael, please don't do this. Not today. But he had already turned away. Guests stared openly now. Some whispered. Some frowned. Some smirked. I wanted to disappear. To melt into the floor. To scream.
To cry.
But I just sat there frozen in humiliation. A security guard approached. Ma'am, you need to leave. He didn't touch me. But he didn't need to. His presence alone was a knife. My driver rushed over, pushing my wheelchair back toward the door. I didn't speak. I couldn't. My throat was too tight to breathe. As the gates closed behind us, the sound echoed like a coffin ceiling. Christmas, once a sacred memory of my husband's love, once a day I honored, once a day I celebrated with my son, had become the most humiliating day of my life. And as we drove home, tears slipping down my face, the only thought that repeated itself in my mind was, what did I do wrong? But deep down, a darker truth was forming. A truth I didn't want to face. Michael wasn't just forgetting where he came from. He was erasing me. I didn't know then that humiliation was only the surface. I didn't know that behind the luxury, behind the cameras, behind the charming smile everyone adored, my son was hiding something far uglier, far darker, far more dangerous. And the scream I heard on Christmas Eve, the one that froze my blood, was only the beginning of the nightmare I was about to uncover. The morning after Michael humiliated me in front of strangers, after I spent the night shaking with a pain no mother should ever know, my phone buzzed on the table beside my wheelchair. I wiped my eyes, still swollen from crying, and reached for it with trembling fingers. A message from Michael. For one small, foolish second, I hoped it was an apology. A crack in his pride. A glimpse of the little boy who used to promise he'd take care of me forever. But when I opened it, the words sliced through me like a blade. Mom, thank you for everything. But it's time you learned to be independent of my wealth. Independent of his wealth? My breath caught. My vision blurred. I nearly dropped the phone onto the floor. After everything? After the sleepless nights? After the double shifts? After the humiliation I suffered just hours before? He thought he was the one who made me dependent. He thought he had built everything alone. I pressed a hand to my chest as my heartbeat stumbled into panic. I couldn't breathe.
Couldn't think.
The message replayed in my mind again and again until the words felt like poison. Independent of my wealth. As if I had raised him for money. As if I had birthed him for benefits. As if I had been waiting all these years to drain him. Tears poured from my eyes, so quickly they dripped onto my dress. My body shook uncontrollably as memories slammed into me. The nights I slept hungry so he could eat. The times I walked miles to work because bus fare was too expensive. The mornings I collapsed at the sink because exhaustion felt like chains on my bones. The day I sold my wedding ring, my last piece of his father, to pay his school fees. I remembered holding him as a baby, whispering, "You're worth every sacrifice." I remembered watching him graduate, proud enough to burst. And now this, a text message.
Cold.
Casual. Telling me to detach myself from the son I built with my tears, my blood, my life. I cried until I couldn't breathe. Until my chest hurt. Until my eyes swelled shut. Until my voice gave out. He didn't just reject me. He threw me away like trash. Like I was some worn-out handbag he didn't need anymore. But in the middle of that storm of grief, something shifted inside me. Not anger. Not hatred. Not revenge. Not yet. It was clarity. A sharp, piercing clarity I had never felt before. It came in a single, painful realization. He wasn't ashamed of me because I failed him. He was ashamed because I succeeded. Because I raised him into a man who forgot compassion, forgot humility, forgot where he came from, forgot who built him. He wasn't embarrassed that I was poor. He was embarrassed that his wealth exposed the emptiness inside him.
He believed he was better than me.
Better than the woman who carried him through hell and held his hand through grief. And on that quiet morning, alone, humiliated, heartbroken, I wiped my face with the back of my hand and whispered to myself, if he wants independence, I will show him what it truly feels like. For the first time in years, my voice didn't shake. Something inside me hardened, sharpened, like steel forged in fire. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to plead. I wasn't going to convince him of my worth.
No.
I was going to let life teach him. Because the universe has a way of humbling those who rise too high and forget the ground they came from. Michael wanted distance? I would give it to him. Michael thought he didn't need me? I would let him drown in that fantasy. Michael believed his success made him untouchable? He was about to learn just how fragile a perfect life could be. And when that scream echoed from his house on Christmas Eve, when the truth shattered his facade, when the world he built began to crumble, he would finally understand the meaning of the word independent. He would feel exactly what it means to stand alone, just like he made me feel. But neither of us knew that the first crack in Michael's perfect world was only hours away. And it was much darker than anything I could have imagined. The morning I promised myself I would show Michael what independence truly felt like, I wasn't thinking about revenge. Not yet. I was thinking about survival, my emotional survival. But fate has a cruel talent for timing. Because 2 days after his text, 2 days after I sat on my bed clutching that $10 bill like a wound, something inside me whispered, let them see. Not my pain. Not my tears. Not my humiliation. Just the truth. So I uploaded the video. The one from Christmas. The one where he pressed the $10 bill into my hand with 2 fingers, like the gesture itself disgusted him. The one where he said, Mom, this party is for VIPs. You shouldn't be here. I didn't add music.
Didn't add text.
Didn't add my voice. No anger. No insults. No explanations. Just a shaky, 3-second clip of a mother holding money her own son used to push her away. And I posted it with no caption. Not even his name. I closed my phone and went about my day. I watered the plants. I folded laundry. I reread the message he sent me. Learned to be independent of my wealth, until the words lost meaning. But by evening, my phone was vibrating nonstop. Notifications. Hundreds. Thousands. Tens of thousands. The internet had erupted. Within 12 hours, the video had 1 million views. Within 24 hours, 10 million. By the end of the week, it was the most viral clip on every platform. People weren't just watching. They were furious. Comments flooded in. Who gives their own mother $10? This broke me. Are people really this cold? The way she looked at the money. I'm crying. Where is the sun? We need to talk. Someone recognized the living room behind him. Someone else recognized the decorations from a party posted on social media. Then a celebrity reshared it with the caption, if you disrespect your mother, you disrespect yourself. That's when it exploded. People didn't know his name yet. But the internet always finds what it's looking for. And when they found him,
Lord,
the world turned upside down. At first, it was small cracks. Someone dug up an old video where Michael claimed he hosted a charity event for underprivileged kids. The event never actually happened. Another person found emails leaked from a PR agency. Michael had paid them to create a humble, hard-working childhood narrative for interviews. All fiction. Then someone claiming to be a former coworker posted anonymously, I've seen him mistreat interns. He acts like everyone is beneath him. Accusations spread like wildfire. More people came forward. More inconsistencies appeared. More stories surfaced. Stories that painted a man whose kindness existed only in his online persona. Sponsors withdrew. Brands unfollowed him publicly. 2 major deals fell apart within 48 hours. And behind all the chaos, behind all the headlines, behind all the crumbling pieces of his perfect image, I sat in my living room, watching quietly. Not smiling. Not celebrating. Not dancing in vindication. Just watching. Because this wasn't cruelty. This was balance. He had humiliated me under lights, cameras, and glittering Christmas decorations. So the universe simply returned the favor under brighter lights, wider cameras, and an audience he couldn't control. Justice, not revenge. By the third day, the news broke. Michael West's company calls emergency board meeting following viral video and allegations. His face was everywhere. Screenshots of him refusing to hug me. Clips of guests staring at me like I didn't belong. Images of that crumpled $10 bill in my hand. And every time the clip played, every time someone gasped or shook their head or pressed a hand to their heart, I felt something inside me settle. Not satisfaction.
Not joy.
Just truth. Finally, the world saw what I had refused to believe for years. My son wasn't the man I thought he was. He wasn't the boy I raised. He wasn't the promise he made as a child. He wasn't the light I once relied on. Success hadn't changed him. It had revealed him. And as his followers dwindled, as his reputation cracked apart like thin glass, I realized something even more painful. This wasn't punishment. This was the consequence of who he had become. No mother wants to witness her child fall. But no mother wants to raise a monster either. And Michael? He had created this storm long before I ever lifted my phone. Now the world was watching him drown in it. And the scream from his house on Christmas Eve, the scream that had frozen my blood, was only the beginning of the real collapse. Something far darker was coming. Something neither of us could run from. I used to think a mother's pain had limits. That once your heart shatters, it cannot break again. But watching Michael try to fix the life he built on lies, it felt like witnessing a man drown in a river he dug himself. At first, he tried to fight back. I saw the statements he released, the shaky videos where he pretended to be calm while his eyes screamed fear. But everything he touched burned. Then the whistleblower came forward, an old employee I once helped years ago. He said, "His mother showed me more kindness in 2 weeks than he showed in 2 years. Hearing that, it stung. Because it was true. After that, the news spread like wildfire. His fiancée, the one he paraded online as his future queen, posted screenshots of his cheating, lies, and manipulation. She ended the engagement publicly, coldly, mercilessly. Sponsors pulled out. Partnerships dissolved. Even his corporate board suspended him pending investigation. I didn't celebrate. I didn't smile. I simply watched the child I raised unravel under the weight of his own choices. Then came the final blow, one he never expected. I walked into my late husband's lawyer's office with a steady voice and a clear mind. "Freeze the trust fund," I said. Legal. Final. Irreversible. Next, I reclaimed the luxury car Michael flaunted everywhere, the one still registered under his father's name. The same father whose memory he dishonored with his arrogance. Online, people began calling him the son who rejected his mother and lost everything. I saw the memes, the jokes, the laughter at his expense. Michael began drinking. He stopped sleeping. Friends faded from his life like morning mist. His perfect world collapsed piece by piece, truth by truth. And me? I stayed silent, steady, unshaken. Not because I wanted revenge, but because justice, true justice, does not need anger to be powerful. My son chose humiliation over love. So the universe taught him a lesson. When you throw away the woman who built you, you lose the foundation that held your world together. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something I never expected.
Peace.
I thought losing his career would humble him. I thought losing his reputation would make him reflect. But Michael was still clinging to the last illusion of power he had left, the mansion. The same mansion he flaunted online as his. The same mansion he once refused to let me visit because I didn't fit the image. But the truth was written in black and white long before he started living his double life. My husband's insurance had kept my name tied to that property. Quietly.
Permanently.
Legally. When the final documents were signed and the court ruled in my favor, I felt no triumph, only a heavy, tired acceptance. The day the eviction was executed, Michael stood in the driveway, staring at the officers carrying out his things. His jaw dropped when he learned I still had partial ownership. "Mom, you can't do this," he muttered, shaking. I didn't yell. I didn't raise my voice. I simply said, "This house was built by a man who loved his family. You dishonored him, and you dishonored me." He tried to fight it legally. Filed motions, complaints, emergency appeals. But he lost.
Every
Single
one.
I watched the arrogance drain from his face like water leaking from a broken pot. What replaced it was something I hadn't seen in years.
Fear.
Real, raw, human fear. Soon he had nothing left. No home, no money, no fiancé, no friends willing to be seen with him. And after burning every bridge, he came to the last one still standing.
Mine.
It was late evening when I heard the knock. Soft at first, then desperate. When I opened the door, there he was, my son, the same child I once rocked to sleep, the same boy who clung to my hand on his first day of school. But now he looked empty, broken, eyes red and swollen from crying or drinking or both. "Mom," he whispered, voice trembling. "Please. I'm sorry." For a moment, everything inside me cracked open. Old memories, old wounds, old hopes. I looked at him, not with hatred, not with revenge, but with the pain of 1,000 nights alone, wondering what kind of man I had raised. Then I said the words that had been sitting in my chest since Christmas. "You rejected me on Christmas. Today, I reject the man you became." And I closed the door. Quietly, firmly, finally. On the other side, I heard him fall to his knees. His sobs seeped through the wood like rain through a weak roof. I leaned my back against the door, closed my eyes, and let the silence settle. It wasn't victory. It wasn't revenge. It was a mother choosing peace over pain, finally. Months passed after I closed that door on him. The world moved on quickly, much faster than a mother's heart ever could. The internet forgot his scandal. The journalists found new stories. His former colleagues replaced him without hesitation. His mansion was sold to strangers. His cars were reclaimed. Every trace of his fame dissolved like smoke in the wind. Sometimes I would catch myself wondering where he slept, what he ate, if he was safe. But then I would remember his words on Christmas. "Mom, this party is for VIPs. You shouldn't be here." Words that pierced deeper than any knife. Still, for the first time in years, I felt peace. Not from watching him fall, but from finally letting go of the weight I had carried alone. As the months went by, I heard whispers. Michael working odd jobs. Michael taking the bus. Michael living in a small shared apartment. No designer clothes. No cameras. No entourage. And something inside him began to shift. The arrogance faded. The entitlement evaporated. He became small again. Human again. And that humility, that softness reminded me of the little boy I once knew. One cold evening, as rain tapped gently on my windows, I heard another knock at my door. Not urgent. Not desperate. Just hopeful. When I opened it, he stood there, no fancy suit, no expensive watch, no PR smile. Just my son, shivering slightly, hands in his pockets, eyes lowered. "Mom," his voice cracked. "I don't want money. I don't want a house. I just want you." My breath caught. For a long moment, I studied him. The curve of his shoulders, the quiet guilt in his eyes, the exhaustion etched into every corner of his face. He wasn't the golden boy anymore. He wasn't the public figure the world worshipped. He wasn't the man who rejected me at the gates of his mansion. He was simply Michael. My Michael. The child who once held my hand at his father's grave, whispering, "Mom, I'll always take care of you." Something inside me softened, slowly, painfully, but undeniably. I opened my arms. He stepped into them without hesitation, burying his face in my shoulder the way he used to when nightmares chased him from his sleep. We cried together, quietly, truthfully, without pride, without bitterness. I forgave him, not because he earned it, not because time erased the hurt, but because a mother's heart has room for wounds and love at the same time. But forgiveness is not magic. His life did not snap back to glory. His reputation never recovered. The world that once worshipped him forgot him completely. Those bridges, carefully burned by his own hands, remained ashes. He learned to live simply, and I learned to live peacefully. We shared small meals, simple laughter, quiet mornings. No cameras, no luxury, just the two of us, rebuilding something fragile, something real. One evening, as he washed dishes beside me, he whispered, "Mom, I think this is the first time in my life I've felt peace." I looked at him, older, humbler, softer, and I realized something. He had lost the world, but perhaps in the end, he finally found himself. And in my little home, far from the noise, far from the pride, far from the glitter, we found our way back to love. He was forgiven, but the life he once lived, gone forever.